on that subject of wrongs that have been done against the citizens, we have the big fat elephant in the room, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now, as we march to what you describe as a historic 2023 election, what steps has the Citizen Coalition for Change taken so far to hold ZEC to account, especially as regards the tainted voters' roll?
ZEC must not be Zimbabwe election criminals, but Zimbabwe Electoral Commission.
Yes.
That is independent, that is accountable, that is impartial, that does not, a referee who doesn't throw the whistle away to join the other team. Like we see, they do the bidding for ZANU. They don't understand that the Z in ZEC does not mean ZANU. It's Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe is bigger than a political party. We are all Zimbabweans. There must be a fair referee. In fact, they hold the keys to stability in this country. If they don't treat this issue of elections in a free, fair manner, they are setting this country on a path of instability. So yes, they have to be professional, they have to be accountable, but we must also audit the commissioners and their behavior. You know, some have received funds, some have received certain trinkets. They are also getting certain benefits that make them unable. Once you are corrupted by receiving certain trinkets, you can't think and act professionally. So that has to be dealt with so that the professionalism and independence of the commissioners is enhanced. But also, you know, have to look at the technical staff. Some of them are still serving in government. So we have an audit of all those so that they are particularly very independent. We're already doing that. We also commissioned experts to start to look into the voters' roll, and we have exposed you know, some of the anomalies that we are seeing. And of course, we are going to act on them politically and legally, and we have even mass action and political action to make sure that we have recourse and there's a fair election. We don't want rigged elections because they also produce rigged policies.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned in your citizen agenda address relates to Zimbabwe's rank in the anti-corruption or corruption index. You indicated that Zimbabwe ranks 157 out of 180 in the world's corruption perceptions index. And also, according to ZEC, at least 2 billion is lost to corruption and illicit financial flows every year. $100 million is lost monthly to gold smuggling. Now, this is money that obviously could be used to fix schools, roads, and hospitals. What must be done to make the fight against corruption effective?
A fish rots from the head. It starts with the leaders. The character of any nation is usually the character of his leader. The character of any family is usually the character of the head of that family. So if you go to any institution, if you just want to understand who is at the helm, just look at the behavior of that institution or the council of that institution. So it all starts with the leadership. You know, the tone is set at the leadership level. You know, you can't tell others not to be corrupt when you make it your daily bread and your fashionable daily diet, you know. So it's important for the leadership to saw the difference and to act decisively. You know, one thing about corruption is that corruption does not come like a giant elephant. It comes like a little fly, like a mosquito. And before you know it, it has visited you in small, you know, bribes, and it becomes an elephant in the living room. And you want to deal with it, it deals with you. So you have to deal with corruption at the very basic of stages, and it starts with leadership. That's the first one. But number two, there has to be very stiff penalties. I don't understand why somebody would be corrupt, they go to jail, they're given bail. But somebody who steals a, you know, a beast, cattle, you know, that is almost 9, you know, mandatory. And that's what we must make. People must be hanged if they steal public money, because you are not just stealing, you are stealing a country, you are stealing a generation, you are stealing a future, and you must be dealt with as such. And that is the tough leadership we are going to provide. No stealing, no stick fingers, and no appetite that is ungoverned, no galloping greediness. We have to live within our own means. If you are a servant of the people, it's not about the self, it's about others, it's about service, It's about making. Why should you have the most expensive cars being driven by people who are in government? And yet people in the corporates do not drive such cars. This taxpayers' money. We just have to give you a wheelbarrow to transport you from one place to another. Why do you need an expensive car? You are not a Mbinga. Why do you want to be I don't know who the Mbingas are now. I used to know Jinimbi. So,
God bless his soul.
So yeah, we have to make that distinction.
Yes.
But it's a leadership ethic. It's transformation of values.
Right.
It's reformation of manners. In fact, change of government is not just change of personalities. You can remove Mnangagwa, you put Chamisa. If you have not changed the culture and the values, you have not done anything. Because what you are simply doing is to change the appetite of those who are greed. You have one great politician, another one coming. It doesn't change a country. So we have to change values. And it has to be the ultimate answer to dealing with corruption, but also stiff penalties. Look at what they do in China. You know, you go to other countries, they actually write by the airport to say that if you have this gift in wanting to ask for state resources secretly, please go back because you'll be punished heavily. That should be the way. Here in Zimbabwe, we have to draw a line in the sand. Heads
Right.
have to roll.
Thank you. Now, Mr. President, the last question I'm going to ask before I open it up to our live audience is about business and transformation. Now, Mr. Mnangagwa promised to open Zimbabwe for business. All indicators show that he has failed. What is the movement doing or going to do to gain the support and trust of the business community?
The business community ultimately has to be at the center of decision making. You can't make these decisions on behalf of the business. Mr. Mnangagwa promised that Zimbabwe will be open for business, but you know, people have to pay bribes in order for them to have access. And it has been said by MPs, by people even from ZANU-PF itself. It shows you that there's a fundamental problem. What we need going forward is to engage the business sector to do what they know best, which is to be in business. And all we have to do is create a conducive atmosphere. Look at Lee Kuan Yew, how he transformed Singapore. He had to create a team and an army of business people who understood the vision that the political leadership was articulating. Look at Mahathir in Malaysia. That's how it is done. You know, Roosevelt in the United States of America, Churchill, even Thatcher, Tony Blair. You need a core group of business people because politicians and politics must create an environment and not fight business and not undermine business through inconsistent policies or contradictory policies. You look at the monetary policy, people don't know what the monetary policy is going to be. Look at the fiscal policy, the budget, you can't even predict. There's no predictability and consistency. That is how we are going to at least bring sanity into the business community. Of course, investment is going to be a big issue, but people want security of their investment. Nobody's going to invest when their property is going to be stolen or money destroyed without any recourse. But also the rule of law. We need an independent judiciary where you know that if there is a dispute, a commercial dispute, adjudication is going to give you fair value.
And swiftly.
Indeed. So those are the things to be dealt with. And of course, business people know that we are good for business. And they know that when we then come into government, this country is going to boom. I can tell you that Zimbabwe is the next big thing on the continent once we take over. Look and watch the space. 2023 is a big year, not just for business, for everyone. Because you see, we don't create jobs as politicians, but we create a conducive environment for jobs to be created by those in business. In that way, of course, government then is able to unleash the fullest of potential for business, for workers, for the citizens, and of course, for consumers.
Thank you. Now, I'm just going to open the floor up to our audience. If you've got a question, put your hand up. These are the kind of young people that I love who are all eager to ask. I'll start with the lady. If you can please assist her with the mic.
Thank you. My question will be directed to His Excellency. I'm the current Gender Secretary at the National Gender and Welfare, ZINASU. So I speak on behalf of the largest constituency in Zimbabwe, which is the feminine domain. I hear that His Excellency pledging support and pledging to outline gender parity policies. My question, Your Excellency, is when does this begin? We were devastated in the past election, and now after today, after you've outlined your vision, we would want to know, as the largest constituency, when do these promises start to take effect? Do we wait for 2023 elections, or you have something in terms of numbers? For example, from the 26th of March, you have filtered this many women in for that ballot, and going forward, do we have affected the concerned women also taking positions, standing up for us for next year in 2023, representing us directly? And in terms of the women's quota question, what do you also have for us? When does this begin, Your Excellency? So that in the future, from today onwards, we would know that you are on our watch, being answerable to 1, 2, and 3 resolve as the largest constituency in Zimbabwe. And on behalf of the welfare of the students in all of Zimbabwe, I would like to ask His Excellency, what plan do you have in terms of promoting student enterprise? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the passionate, confidence and belief in your portfolio. Clearly, young female leaders need to be supported. People like yourself, supported in capacity building, but also more importantly, supported in the platforms that you get to be able to represent the broader, society of our female cadres. Uh, Practical issues, parliament-wise, we have always said we are now moving away from the so-called toxic primary elections that are imposed from the top. We are moving into a community consensus process. So we are encouraging communities to make sure that they also put women first, citizens who are women and female first in terms of positions in parliament, positions in the local authorities. On our own, within the citizens movement, we are also going to make sure that representation, as I said, is actually on an equal basis so that we are able to advance the agenda. So you can begin to look at how we are going to be structured. You can also begin to look at our policies, look at our culture as we unleash them. It is actually a now thing. It's not about tomorrow or after 2023. Begin to judge us on the basis of our policies, our posture, disposition, and of course our orientation in terms of the composition. Look at how we are going to present this. Now, student enterprise, of course, our duty and our obligation is to engage the students. I mean, there's always been this approach of having leaders coming to impose solutions that are not coming from those who are affected. So we want to engage you, the students. Tell us how you want us to support you from a policy perspective, but also from a leadership point of view, so that you are unleashed, let the female leaders, let the students thrive. And they can only thrive when we give you the opportunity to shine. That's part of the transformational politics that we are talking about. Transforming how decisions are made so that it's coming from you, telling us what you want, rather than us telling you and promising you what you probably do not want.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Yes, sir. Don't worry, I'm going to do my best. Just a quick question.
I'm sure we must have another session.
Yes, we definitely will have another session. These young people are so eager. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Advocate Fadzai Mahere, for giving me this opportunity. My question is directed to our visionary,
Yes.
His Excellency, President Nelson Chamisa. As the youth, we are more passionate about change, and we are ready to define, decide, and defend our future. But my question is, I just want to quote Thomas Sankara. He once said, "A soldier without ideological clarity
Yes.
is a potential criminal."
Yes.
We as the youth, we don't just want to be supporters. We want to be the ambassadors of Citizens Action for Change. What we need is that ideological clarity. We want ideological school, ideological classes that are initiated by Citizen Action for Change. We want to be mentored by Citizen Action for Change leaders, so that when we speak with one voice. When I speak, people hear President Nelson Chamisa. When my colleague speaks, people must hear President Nelson Chamisa.
Yes.
So that's my first question. My second question, nowadays, elections are now data-centric. We need data scientists. We need technology so that we can win 2023 election. Elections are not just about the outdoors, but indoor is more important than outdoor. So, for example, I'm doing data science and systems. We want opportunities to volunteer for the party.
Wow.
We want opportunities so that we can use GIS technology for you, so that you can determine where to put resources.
So can GIS make me win the presidential election?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, let's talk after this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
we can be the ambassadors of that. So I realize that most of the students, most of people are volunteering to register people to vote, but we want to volunteer in a certain way, and we want to be the ambassadors of this movement. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Those are basically comments. I'll ask the president to just respond briefly to those, and then I'll take the last question. Okay, 1, 2, 3 are my last ones.
Fadzai,
Okay.
I don't normally protest, but
The president has protested, so I'll just pick the man in the yellow, president. That will be the last one, and then you can just.
we can always create another platform.
Sure.
Yeah, but thank you, my brother. I think, very deep questions. The first one has to do with
Yes.
having the correct, ideological anchor. You're right. We don't want brainwashing. We want also to equip and mentor young people, young citizens, to be solid on the trajectory, on the revolutionary theory of this transformational trajectory. And I'll tell you that we've already begun a school. It's called the School of Leadership and Ideological Development, SOLID. So you have to be a solid cadre. You have to be a solid citizen. You have to be a solid leader, a solid MP, because you have gone through the issues to do with our history as a country. We are building people who are able to be loyal to God, the Maker, to be loyal to our country, its people and its resources, to also be loyal to the values that we stand for. That organizational, posture, what you stand for, and to be able to stand for that. So that is coming. We will then also have those who are willing to be part of the leadership school, because Africa's biggest problem is not just a problem of not having the correct politicians. It's a leadership problem. If we don't address leadership from a lower level, we'll always have problems. So leadership question has to be fixed. Like Clinton said, is the economy stupid? In Africa, in Zimbabwe, is the leadership stupid? So we have to make sure that we deal with the leadership issue, so that we are able to breed leaders from students, breed leaders from young cadres, breed leaders at various levels, at church level, in communities, in the civil society. We must just have 100 flowers blooming of leadership. So that's the first one. The second one has to do with technology. Powerful point. In fact, it's something that we are willing to then embark on. The citizen movement and the citizen philosophy is about the citizen. Volunteers coming with their various competencies. We have builders, come and build for change. We have farmers, come and farm for change. We have thieves, come and steal for change. So any competence you have, I also know that from other areas we have witches. Please bewitch those who stand in the way, of change. So every competence, let us volunteer for change. And thank you for your expertise. We really appreciate it, and I hope that will engage you and many others, professionals, accountants, lawyers, engineers, doctors, nurses. Let us all put our shoulders onto the block and change our country for the better. We are the best country on the African continent, but we can't assume or reclaim our number one position if we have not taken the initiative ourselves in our various competencies, skills, and endowments. We're the brightest people in the world. That's why we've populated all the capitals of the world. But we have to make sure that we leverage on that competence for the benefit of our great country.
Right. So all that remains, Mr. President, is for me to thank you very much. You protested
the young man.
because he's wearing yellow.
In fact, just give the last three, if that.
Okay, last three, President. Sure. Thank you very much for that.
So you can almost have a fair share of the
Thank you.
test of government that we are going to have.
Thank you. It's all
It's always
democratic.
going to be about what you want to say.
But I'm going to ask you all, keep your questions short so that we can just accommodate the other three that have been mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. President, the question being directed to you. I welcome all the remarks that we have been hearing, but however, taking note of the keyword citizen, I have reflected on the people living with disability and those on the street. What word is there that ensures that there is policy crafting by the citizen and then policy delivery? Because we're having a case where we craft the policy as the citizens, but at the end of the day, there is paperwork that stops the policy delivery. So what are you going to say about that?
Well, in fact, thank you very much for what you have said. You have articulated so eloquently what is problematic about our politics. The citizen is not given the opportunity to make a decision. Let's go to those who have challenges so that they are the ones who articulate, who are able to drive policy, even its execution and implementation. I mean, look at what is happening in this country. The people who make fundamental decisions around public transport are people who don't even understand what public transport is. These are people who have private cars, who drive their own cars. They don't want to even bother to ask those who use public transport to say, is a Zupco appropriate for you? They'll just say, take a Zupco. They are benefiting from that Zupco because they are the one who did the contract. But they've not gone to the people to then ask the suitability of that public policy response or public policy intervention. It's the same thing for those people with disability, PWD. You have to go and ask them, because I can't pretend that I would know what the real challenge is, because it's unique in formulation, but also unique in execution and implementation. So we must engage the citizen at the center.
Yes.
Citizens who are in those unfortunate circumstances are the ones who must give us the policy prescription.
Thank you. Yes, so you're wearing red, but I'll allow you.
I think you are colorblind. That's not red.
Okay, it's pink.
I know you
That's
don't
fine.
like red, but no, that's not red.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is, we've heard a lot about CCC and the Citizens Coalition for Change, but I think the citizens also want to know why they should vote for you at a personal level, not just about the Citizens Coalition,
Sure.
but you as an individual. What makes you the right candidate for this particular job?
Do you also doubt that I'm the right candidate?
No, not at all.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I did say that to intimidate you. But just to say that, thank you for that very kind question. I think when people are voting, they are not voting for personalities. They are voting for values. And I would say that the contest between myself and others, Mr. Mnangagwa included, is actually a contest between values. And I think you know the values I stand for. Clear, clean, accountability, no corruption, democracy, giving citizens their respectful place, their dignity, their responsibility and authority, allowing people to have their way and say. That is what makes us different. I mean, one thing I can assure you, and why you should vote for us, is that when Mr. Mnangagwa and his party become opposition, we will never deploy the police against them. We will never use riot police when they demonstrate. When they hold their rallies, they will be free to hold their rallies. When they attack us, they will not be in prison for attacking us. That we assure you. We will never hire, tear smoke or canisters or order, button sticks against human beings. That will not happen. There will be freedom. There will be justice. You can be sure that as students, you will have an opportunity to also enjoy not just academic freedom, but the autonomy, of tertiary institutions, so that you are able to have intellectual inquiry in an environment where you are free, where you are able to exercise your intellectual talents. That we can assure you. You will also be able to have education not being the preserve of a few who are rich. It will be accessible to all. Just like what was done during the Smith regime. And most of these leaders have benefited from the loans and grants, before. That is what we must go back to, so that education does not become a privilege and a commodity. It must be available to all. I understand it. Being a rural boy, I'm a rural boy who has now been a city boy. I understand the transition. So, yes, that will help to also help those who are in circumstances of need.
Thank you. Now, okay, I'm gonna just take one more, just one more.
I'm sure you had picked on him to be
Okay,
the last one.
that's okay. Mr. The president has spoken.
No, you had picked.
That's fine. That's fine. Go sir.
But part of the duty of the president is also
Just to
correct
guide,
citizens,
absolutely.
who are mistaken.
This is true. Thank you very much for the correction, Mr. President. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mine is just a question that is more like a concern that I know is perverted the minds of a lot of citizens. In fact, what are you doing, Comrade Presidents, to ensure that you ameliorate the issue to do with double candidature? I still remember the last time
Sure.
at a press conference when the spokesperson is addressed, she was very sure that the issue and the problem was going to be addressed. But up until this time, we are hearing a lot of things that are coming in. I may not be willing to understand the basis upon which
Sure.
that problem emanated from, but maybe how are you going to address the problem? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Brilliant question. Thank you very much. And I know that it's nagging a lot of people. I get it in my inbox, my DM. People keep asking, Mr. President, why is it like this? You know, you must understand two problems. First one, old habits die hard. You know, we're a new movement, but there are other people who are trying to import their old habits into the new movement. And these people are a dangerous lot. We are doing everything within our power to make sure that either they exercise and take off their old habits or we discard them. So that is the first thing, because you know that when you start something new, you have a new vehicle, people still want to jump onto that vehicle to contaminate it. So we are very conscious of that. That is the first problem. But the second problem also has to do with us being a new kid on the block. We still have teething problems, you know, because we are so loved and people are so willing to represent this new baby in parliament, in local authorities. There's always going to be that kind of, glitches administratively and technically, as has been the case. But there is an issue that we are dealing with. But going forward, I've also said, look, once bitten, twice shy. And I've learned my lessons as a leader. If I'm still the leader, because the citizen movement has to choose the leader ultimately. If I'm still the leader, we'll have to make sure that we centralize the issue of who signs for the people who then become candidates. And surely one person can't sign for double candidates. What caused problems that we have too many people signing? Like we had 4 people who were signing. Some now sign because of proximity, familiarity, history, and other things. So those are some of the things we are trying to really flash out. It's not a walk in the park. It's not an instant coffee kind of thing. It's a very tough call. But I can tell you that you will not see the kind of problems. And you know that the buck stops with the leader, and that we are sure is a very concerning issue. But we did very well. I mean, you look at all the seats that were there, it was just 2 constituencies or 2 seats, ward seats for that matter, where we had challenges. But it's something that we are dealing with. And I've told the leaders who are responsible to deal with the issue and to make sure that at times you don't wash your dead linen in public. But I can tell you that the dead linen is being washed, but in private. And what we give you is obviously the clean linen.
Thank you. Mr. President, I think I speak on behalf of all the young people here and all the people who've joined us online in saying thank you very much. This has been a fruitful conversation. We strongly hope, as the people who believe in the movement and who want to champion the cause of citizen participation, citizen engagement, and citizen leadership, that this will be the first of many. And you will continue to put us, the citizens, first in terms of your engagement. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the address. And I believe it behoves us all as young people, as citizens, to play our part. It's not a question of throwing President Chamisa in the front of an army tank to save Zimbabwe. It's really the responsibility of each and every one of us to stand up, to ask the tough questions, to speak, and most importantly, to act for change in 2022. Good evening, and thank you very much.
Thank you.